I just assume that an Indiana Jones game by Bethesda is going to turn out to be like an Assassin's Creed game.
Astarion was the last character I got out of the 6. Which is
Really?
a lot of time. Yeah, and when you realize where he is on the map, when I got to that, I was like, oh, I see why most people would have gotten to him first. If you put on a vest at like a department store and it just looks like a vest that the party member, most people will think you work there. Alex, is it snowing over by where you are?
Yes, actually, it is currently snowing.
Ah, sucks to be you. It's not snowing here. So, it's just really cold. Like me, and my heart. I am cold in my soul. Hopefully all of you out there are staying warm. Anyway, thank you for joining us today on Total Pebble Knockdown, the coldest place on Earth, and I am very frosty Nathan.
And I am frigidly Alex.
Perfect.
I guess.
That's great. You're an Alexicle.
No.
Yes. Anyway, let's just jump into the episode. Bethesda did a developer direct talking about some of the new games that they're going to be coming out in 2024. And I'm sure...
Elder Scrolls 7. Are we on 6 or 7?
You've already passed over 6, you're going to 7 now?
Yeah.
6 is old news. I
hope it's Skyrim, but in Black Marsh.
There was going to be a stream that they were going to do about Elder Scrolls Online, and I think it was for Gold Road, but I don't care about that, to be honest with you. These were about new games, not talking about updates or changes or DLC for existing ones. These were new games, and I wanted to talk about that, and I also wanted to talk about it in relation to the September leaked documents that we saw where they had like a list of content of what they were supposed to release.
Yeah, their roadmap for the next 17 years.
Yeah, something like that, exactly. And I can, sorry, spoiler alert for everybody that's out here, one of the games that is going to be on here is not Elder Scrolls 6. It was not going to come out this year. It's like...
Yeah, well... Of course it wouldn't come out the same year as Starfield. That would tank it even worse.
Starfield technically came out last year.
Did it come out last? Oh, shut the fuck up.
It's 2024 now, Alex. Get with the program. Change the calendar over. Anyway.
I don't use calendars.
Okay, fine. So here's basically what got announced. Avowed, Visions of Mana, Hellblade 2, Ara History Untold, and Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Okay.
Hellblade is Senua's Sacrifice, right?
Yes, this is going to be Senua's Saga, so this is the second installment.
Okay. I saw that was on sale, I think, recently?
Yes, I actually picked it up. I did pick it up.
Oh. I listened to somebody talk about it recently.
Senua's Sacrifice was one that I actually did try to play, and I was, like, a little bit meh on it, I think, when I did the attempting to play. But I'm picking it up again because I think that's going to be one of my second chances, because I do feel like it deserves that, at least.
Good luck.
Yeah, I know, it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one.
I think Daryl Talks Games talked about it as, like, the last game that was on his backlog that he
Sure,
did.
Yes.
Yeah, so...
I wanted to give it at least another chance because I think what Ninja Theory was trying to accomplish is far more ambitious than most games try. Like, in terms of what they were trying to represent with the character and their journey. But at any rate, so they're doing that. Looks like Ninja Theory is back on their bullshit, trying to do this game. Same kind of, like, oral surround kind of thing. The characters are back and everything. The, Melina is back, Jurgens is back doing Senua. So that looks fine. Looks good. Probably gonna be very nice. Avowed is, the Obsidian RPG. They talked about the Living Worlds a little bit more like that. Kind of looks a little bit like what they did with Outer Worlds, but it's more of like a Might and Magic kind of game, where you can actually dual wield like magic and weapons and ranged combat and stuff. in first person. Looks fine. Looks good.
Mhm.
I'm sure it's an Obsidian RPG. It's going to be interesting to see what they do, if nothing else. Aura History Untold is from Oxide. They're the ones that made Civilization 5. So
Okay.
it is...
I didn't realize they were part of Bethesda.
Yeah, this is a relatively new studio under 2013. They said that they actually incorporated.
That's not new. That's a decade old.
Well, by standards that we usually think of in the industry, that seems newer.
Yeah, that's a thing we need to work on too. Not being like, oh yeah, these are established video game companies. No.
Yeah.
No. We don't care if they're established. These new people coming out are doing good things.
Yeah, they absolutely are. But anyway, they're doing History Untold, and that's going to be in similar fashion, it looks like, to Civ 5. I think it's more like a real time this time for Aura. Visions of Mana was one that looked like it snuck in at the last moment. That was the big surprise. It's part of the Mana series of RPGs, the Japanese RPG series. And this one's going to be like in 3D. So that's going to be fun for a lot of people that are fans of the series. And that's going to be coming out again this year. And then the one that I think everybody was looking forward to, Indiana Jones. We had heard
Were they
a
looking
little bit
forward
about
to it?
Yeah, we haven't had an Indiana Jones game in a long time, so...
What was the last one? The one by LucasArts?
The last one I played was from a couple console generations ago. I don't even remember what it was called, but it was like a third-person adventure game. I
just assumed that an Indiana Jones game by Bethesda is going to turn out to be like an Assassin's Creed game.
Well, here's the thing that I'm going to say. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is being made by Machine Games, and that's You have no idea what I'm talking about.
No, who are they? I don't pay attention to developers, Nathan.
Okay, Machine Games made the new Wolfenstein games.
Oh, so there's going to be Nazis.
Yeah, see, they're very good at making games where you punch Nazis, and this is going to be a Nazi punching game. So that's
but Wolfenstein is a shoot 'em up.
That is true.
First or third person, I assume. I assume it's first.
It's first person.
It's bang, 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 going guns blazing kind of game, right?
Yes. New Order, New Colossus, yes. It's primarily what you do.
Indiana Jones should not be a going guns blazing shoot 'em up game. Yes, that Indy does get in fights and scuffles and occasionally punch and or shoot Nazis and blow things up.
Right.
But he does it, like, the movies go on adventures.
Yeah, well, the way that they present it with the Great Circle is that there's this series of historical sites and around the globe, and when you point them all together, they create a great circle around the globe. So he's going to all of these places.
So it's Tomb Raider. We're just getting a Tomb Raider game.
We're doing Tomb Raider. Well, I mean, Tomb Raider was kind of based on Indiana Jones too. Like,
sure, absolutely. But we're doing a Tomb Raider game with a male protagonist instead of Lara Croft and her pixelated titties.
It is going to be in first person for the most part. And it's gonna zoom out to third person when they do environmental stuff and when they do cutscenes, but it's primarily going to be in first person.
That's weird.
There's whips. You get to use the whip.
Of course there's whips.
Whips
you gotta use it for traversal.
And melee combat. Yeah, you can use it for traversal, but you can also use it to trip people up. And you can use it for, getting people in close, and you can use it in combat. So there's that. The only reason why I think it might end up doing okay is because Machine Games is involved. Although Todd Howard seems to be attaching himself pretty closely to the project. So
that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
It'll have 16 times the artifacts.
16 times the artifacts.
16 times the Nazis. You gotta use your next-gen console. You gotta use this won't run on current-gen systems.
What we're gonna do is we're gonna have all of those sites, but you have to manually walk to each one of them around the globe. So that it's extra.
And it's procedural generated globe too.
It's a procedurally generated globe, and then you get to the individual sites. That's where the actual content goes. But enjoy walking there. The journey is half the battle. Anyway, the point of the matter is,
The other half is Todd Howard.
It's the point of it is, in terms of just like how it looks pretty nice. Looks like it has some action set pieces to it, which is good. It's an Indiana Jones game. There's been a dearth of those for a while, so I'm sure people are excited about it for that. I'll wait and see. It's not like big on my priority list, but I'll probably want to try it when it comes out. But what I wanted to do is, now that we kind of know what they've announced for 2024, to go back to that September leak. In September 19th, 2023, a few months back, they started talking a little bit about Microsoft documents that were leaking new Bethesda games. And I wanted to look at this again and see exactly where we're at with this, because the first thing that they were going to be announcing as of fiscal year 22 was the Oblivion remaster, and I still haven't seen anything on that. I also haven't seen anything about Doom Year Zero. Fallout 3 remaster, which was for fiscal year 2024, although I think we're getting the idea now that we are exactly like, we're roughly 2 years out from the original predictions of fiscal years.
Yeah, because of COVID and everything, allegedly.
Yeah, because one of the things that they mentioned was an Indiana Jones game, and it was originally scheduled for fiscal year 22. So we're at fiscal year 24, so we're looking 2 years out. That at least gives us an idea of how far out these are.
So do you think we'll get a Fallout 3 remaster and Oblivion remaster this year?
Fallout 3 maybe no, because that was originally scheduled for this year anyway, so that might have been put on. But Oblivion was also originally set for 22, like the Indiana Jones game, and we have not heard anything about it, so I don't know if that's even in the...
They're gonna just drop it at the Bethesda Connect later, or whatever the thing they did when they talk about stuff later.
Maybe
Unless this was the thing.
I think this was the thing. This was the developer direct for the beginning of the year to talk about the new products that they're going to do. Some of these projects are were announced to be out in like fall. So this is a pretty long timeline, unless they have some, cards up their sleeve about other projects that they're going to work on. Dishonored 3 was supposed to be out this year, and a sequel to Ghostwire Tokyo. So we still haven't really heard anything about those at present. And then the two that I think are really interesting, that I'm curious about, are Project Kestrel and Project Platinum. I think we talked a little bit about what those might be. I'm thinking that maybe one of those is the new Mana game, the Visions of Mana, because it seemed to be kind of released, out of nowhere. A couple of these could have been what they meant by Project Kestrel and the expansion, or Project Platinum. Although I'm gonna guess, because it looks like both of them were supposed to be fiscal year 23, they probably are still in production. So I'm not really sure if something like the Visions of Mana were even represented somewhere in that leak to begin with. And it looks like how they dropped it in, it wasn't even shown in the initial screenshot. They had 4 games that they were showing, and then halfway through they moved it in, because they weren't announcing.
Do you think Hi-Fi Rush could have been one of those?
Hi-Fi Rush, yeah, I think Hi-Fi Rush was a surprise piece for them, because when they said last year that Hi-Fi Rush was coming, it was released that day.
Yeah.
The day of that. And no one really knew about anything like that. Would that be Project Kestrel or Platinum? Maybe, but I have a feeling that those are further out. Although it really was very hush-hush. No one knew Hi-Fi Rush was coming out. That was a complete surprise.
Yeah.
So it looks like they're making good on a couple of these, but what I think is really interesting is it kind of shows the disparity of what they originally planned for scheduling compared to now, and the Indiana Jones game gives us a good example of that by showing that we're about 2 years out from what we originally. But that does make me wonder about the Oblivion remake or the remaster, because that was also supposed to be set for around the same time for release, and they haven't said anything about it. So,
well, considering what they did with the Skyrim Special Edition HD remaster, I assume it's just going to be the same game with better graphics.
They're going to do God rays and shaders and all of that stuff and put it in. Although I keep maintaining that what I really wanted was Morrowind. They could have really done some amazing things with Morrowind if they put it in modern hardware with modern game systems.
Oh well.
But I'm not going to get that. I'm not going to get Daggerfall or Arena. Those would have been really
You'll
nice
get both of those, you just have to download them as mods for Skyrim.
I wonder if they have those. Now I have to check.
Yes.
They do?
Somebody has done a recreation, I think, of Daggerfall into Skyrim.
Holy crap.
I watched someone do it, and they're like, the issue is...
Daggerfall's huge.
Daggerfall is huge, and really just kind of flat.
Yes.
So the person that was playing it was like, you kind of just need to, like, fast travel everywhere, which is how Daggerfall was meant to be played anyways. You could kind of teleport to the towns you're going to.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, you can explore to the other towns if you want to, but there's really nothing in between it, and it's kind of boring, so you shouldn't.
Daggerfall, I don't think people understand. When I tried Daggerfall Unity, when you get out of that first cave, every point on the map is fast travelable immediately. You do not have to discover them like in a Skyrim. They're just there. You just go there.
Oh well.
So yeah, I don't know. They could have easily made the map a lot smaller, but they wanted to represent a large area. Anyway, the point of the matter is...
But the fun part about that mod, off topic, but still on this topic. The fun part about that is once you beat that game, you can choose to continue on to the normal story of Skyrim.
Oh, cool.
And it lets you keep all the things that you got in character progression along the way.
The point of the matter is that I wanted to get around to telling you that in terms of initial announcement and from the league, it looks like we really are about 2 years out for most of these projects from when they were originally supposed to release, because Indiana Jones kind of gives that away. Still no idea what the licensed IP game that was mentioned in that documentation was, because it doesn't seem to appear here. But anyway, if you have any thoughts on what you think those special projects are, you let us know if you've heard any hot tips about it. But I don't, at present, have a clear idea of what those projects actually are supposed to be. They're gonna have 16 times the detail, though. That's what matters.
16 times the Nazis.
That's just what I need. I need Assassin's Creed Wolfenstein. So, Alex, I think I mentioned that I had gotten around to playing some Baldur's Gate 3.
You vaguely mentioned it after you'd played it for like a year.
Yes. I had played it very recently, in fact. I think in December. In December, I actually picked it up and started playing it. And very good. Very good. Just give my initial thoughts out. You'll probably see it pretty high up on the list when I do my every game from 2023. But I ran into one little issue, and it was about 10 hours in. Can you guess what that issue might be?
It was the Underdark.
No, the Underdark is fine. The Underdark is fine. It was another issue in terms of structure. And about 10 hours in, can you venture a guess as to what that problem was that I was annoyed by?
Death.
Okay. Yes, I'm annoyed by death. No, the reason I say 10 hours in is it is the point where I had collected more than the 3 characters that would be with me in the game. And I started having to trade them out at the camp to come with me on adventures. And this leads to the one mod that I actually needed for Baldur's Gate 3. Which is, and I no regrets again, I literally got on Nexus Mods and started an account because I just wanted to fix this one thing. This was the one thing that I hope somebody had done something to fix.
And now you can just download mods for everything. I'm surprised you haven't got Nexus before, considering Skyrim is on there with like 50,000 mods.
Oh, yeah. Well, then I just have choice paralysis. But
no, you just go most popular.
Oh, okay. I like least popular. We should just download the least popular mods and see what happens.
Great, if you just want to replace everything with dicks, I guess.
Or Thomas the Tank Engine, which is pretty much the same thing.
No, that is popular.
Yeah, exactly. Thomas the Dick Engine. Anyway, the point of the matter is, there's the episode title. Anyway, the point is...
No, because then we won't get any views and it will be limited.
But, it's still worth it. Anyway, the point of the matter is, there was a mod that I actually did want to get for Baldur's Gate 3, and it solved this one singular problem. And it was a mod called Party Limit Be Gone. And basically what it means is that you can have up to, 8 player characters that are actually out in the field at one time. I do not have to anymore trade out characters from the camp and have them come in. They're always out in the field. In fact, I think that it can go up to 16 if you have, helpers or recruits or anything like that. But basically...
Great.
Basically, everybody can be out in the field. And one of the big reasons why I wanted to do that, especially for Baldur's Gate 3, is that the characters all interact with each other. When you arrive at any scenarios, different characters will have agency in them, and you don't know who among them is important to this. I've run across things where, Will ends up being incredibly important to the storyline, but for some reason... I didn't know that, and so it was a good thing he happened to be in my party at the time, but once I started to get, 5 or 6 characters, all of them, I was like, okay, but now I really don't know who's important. Sometimes 3 or 4 of these characters are integral to the storyline that is moving forward, and so... Yeah. I don't know who is important, and their interactions with each other is also important.
And the interactions with quests that are not just their quests, their follower quests. Right. I don't know if it's a thing games like this do to encourage you to play through multiple times to see how different people react to things.
Possible.
But that doesn't seem tenable with a game as large as Baldur's Gate 3.
I know that there are people that have run through the game multiple times.
They're insane.
They are insane. I think that it's a very large game. I didn't want to miss something that was important for the characters that were in the field. And I mean, I know why they had a limit of a 4-person party, like a 4-character party, because one, it was probably for scaling. Difficulty ratings, they based it around a certain number of characters. But even back when we had Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, the parties were 6. It was a 6-person party. And the thing that made logical sense to me back then was if you dismiss a person in the party, they go back to wherever they originally were, and same thing with Wasteland. And then you'd have to pick them up. The thing that never made sense to me with Baldur's Gate 3 is I have all the characters with me, and they're just hanging out at the camp. If they're just hanging out at the camp and not going back to some place, then why aren't they just out in the field? Why are they just not there? They're all supposed to be interacting with each other. They all have roles to play in the field. They all have, strengths and weaknesses that could become very useful to talk about in the field. And so it feels a lot better having all 6 of your primary characters that they worked real hard on fleshing out as full characters with stories to have them all in the field at the same time.
Do you think it could be a beneficial trade-off if they were to say, yes, all the characters are with you and will pop out for story beats and stuff like that when necessary or when they have things to comment on it or it's a quest of theirs, even if they would be at camp, with the caveat that you can only have 4 of your party members be active combatants? If they did something like that, where you could be like, all right, you are in my reserve? I have these 4 active party members, and then 2 of you are in the back, but you're still traveling with me, so you're still gonna pop out and go, oh hey, actually I had a comment about that.
Right. I think that it for me, that just kind of says, well, then get off your lazy butts and get out here because we're fighting a troll. Like, what?
Yeah,
you're right.
Maybe they're resting. Maybe they're resting. They did a watch.
Maybe
they did watch at camp.
Here's what would help with that. Is if every single one of the characters had passive camp skills that they lent to the parties. So that you had to figure out, like, okay, from a strategic standpoint, yes, all the characters are actually involved, but we only have, like, 4 that are in active combat, but the other ones have passive skills that actually are beneficial. I wouldn't even mind if they were like, you can have everybody in combat, but we're just going to scale combat to having everybody in the field. Like, that just scale it to having more people in the field. As it stands, granted, it does make the game easier, because instead of a 4-person team,
then you just increase the difficulty then.
Exactly.
If you want to.
You could always increase the difficulty. I will say that when you get to the Underdark, it does help, because you have the bullets that come at you, land sharks. And once I figured out that they were out there, it's like, well, it's actually kind of good that I have as many people in the field as they do.
And you got the hook horrors.
Oh, yeah. And
Which I personally had a fun time with the hook horrors as a warlock, because I went Eldritch Blast with the one that knocks them back.
Yeah.
So they'd be up on a thing, I'd shoot them, they'd get knocked back and fall down a chasm.
Yeah. I definitely upgraded Will's ability to do that so that he had knockback.
I never really used Will, because the playthrough I got for this on was playing as a warlock, and it's like, I don't really need 2 warlocks unless they add in more subclasses for it, because I would love to play a Hexblade.
The thing is, though, Will does, especially early on in the game, have some pretty major storylines that are based around other characters in the game, too. Like with Karlach. With Karlach.
So here's my question.
Sure.
Given that you have a full party of 7 characters...
Right.
Or whatever, if you didn't have 7 characters, what would your party composition be?
What would my party composition be? What was I actually using? I had Shadowheart. I definitely wanted to have Shadowheart in the party. I think, was I using Lae'zel? I think I was using Lae'zel because I wanted a front range, and then, I think I had Gale. I think I had Gale because I wanted a dedicated spellcaster.
Interesting.
Even though Gale is kind of annoying, just because he constantly needs to eat artifacts that I...
It's not even that annoying. I had Lae'zel.
Yep.
Astarion.
Mm-hmm.
Because you need a rogue in the party.
Mm.
And then I believe... Who did I have? It was not Karlach, because she's kind of squishy.
Yeah.
She's really squishy.
But Karlach hits hard.
She does, but she dies fast. And Lae'zel is a much better,
Lae'zel's great. That's why I like to keep Lae'zel out. But
so who's the other one?
Shadowheart or Gale? Right? Because you weren't using Will.
It must have been Gale, because Shadowheart sucks.
What don't you like about Shadowheart?
She's not a very good cleric.
Yeah.
She's useless in a lot of situations. No, she hits like garbage, barely hits if she does hit, and the spells she has are mostly illusion and trickery based.
The thing that I found was really useful about Shadowheart, though, is if you give her, the poison, the corruption cloud, or whatever the melee attack is that adds poison damage, she's usually pretty reliable about that, but you have to use her as a melee class.
Yeah.
And go in and whack people real hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lae'zel does well in the field. And Gale will die very quickly, but you can keep him in range.
He's a wizard, of course.
Yeah. I think what happened was Astarion was the last character I got out of the 6. Which is
really?
a lot of time. Yeah, and when you realize where he is on the map, when I got to that, I was like, oh, I see why most people would have gotten to him first. But I went in the other direction. I didn't go to the west. I went all east. And so he was actually the last character I ended up
Yeah.
picking up.
No, he's good because he's a rogue and he can sneak around, and you can get him to dual wield easily. And he's good with
Yeah.
he's really good with a bow and range sneak attack too. So
Yeah. He also sucked all my blood out. So
did you let him kill you?
yes. and I got resurrected. So
Good job.
and then you confront him on it. I love when and he's like, "Oh, good, you're better now." Yeah, man.
Yeah, I'm aware.
Thanks for that. Yeah. No, but then again, I also, who was the bard that joins you for a little while?
Oh,
Volo, yeah. I let him do the eye surgery.
Yeah, you get a permanent buff if you do that.
Yeah, I didn't know that at the time. I was just like, I got to see where this is going.
Yeah.
I got to see where this is going. No, you get a special eye so you can always see invisible creatures. It's pretty damn good.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's pretty damn good.
That's a buff. That's a buff.
Oh yeah, it's a big buff. It's a good.
I mean,
one.
it's not a buff if you're a warlock. It's just like, dude, I could have done this with my normal eye.
Right. But anyway, so yeah, I guess that would have been my party composition, but I see the benefit of, like, in a lot of RPGs that I've played, they usually assume, like, a 6-person party. And I guess in 5e, since they're basing it off of 5e, a lot of that is based on a 4-person party for critical ratings. And also, I think one of the reasons was because in Larian's other RPGs, like Divinity, Original Sin 1 and 2, it's also a 4-person party. So that might be the reason why they were doing it here. I just found it really disappointing when I started playing the game and they had defined these 6 very important characters, and I had already seen all of the voice actors play D&D together and like all of that, and I was like, oh, kind of a shame that they can't just all be there every time. And luckily there was a mod to do it. It was the only mod I cared about because I just wanted to fix that so I didn't have to constantly do party rearranging and trade out supplies and stuff between them in the field.
It is a little annoying doing that.
It is, and luckily Party Limit Be Gone fixes that. The only problem, of course, is that it does mess with the difficulty settings. It's going to make it a hell of a lot easier if you want the challenge of the combat. And also, I have found a couple places where if your party is teleported to another location, or if they are moved to another location, some of the party members that are not in the first 4 will like become invisible or uninteractable. And so that there is an issue with it. But for the most part, it works fine. And I'm playing a bard, and I was just happy that there weren't any of those characters that were a bard, so I didn't double.
Well, bards are annoying, so
mine sure is.
One of the other things, if you wanted to, with like looking at mods, I know you said the only mod you wanted, but I know there are a ton of people who have made mods for subclasses and other class variations that are actually 5e based, or actual ones that 5e has in it that you could do. So if you wanted to, say, play a bard that is not currently in the game, but you know is a bard that they offer in 5e, you could do that.
That's good. Luckily, like, I'm playing Max, and Max was always a College of Lore bard, so that is one of the few options that they do have. But I did find that it would be really cool to see so many other of the subclass or archetype options that they put in. The options that they give you are at least enough of a range so that you can choose something that works for your playstyle. But there were so many interesting ones. Like I don't think College of Glamour got in there, but a lot of people like that. There's some interesting ones that are there for the different classes that just aren't presented. I think the one that had the most was like the Wizard. I think you could have the schools, like all the schools.
Well, yeah, that's not even subclasses, really. That's just which specialization of wizard are you?
Right. And I believe Gale is an evocation wizard, I want to say.
Yeah, well, of course he is. Otherwise, he'd be useless in a combat-heavy game.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're not using him for healing or anything like that. That's always good, because you get shape spells, so you don't have to worry about blasting your... when he starts getting Fireball, you don't have to worry about blasting the rest of the party. No, there's just so many interesting subclasses, and I might have to look at that just to see what other ones you can spec into.
Well, good news. If you're on Nexus, you can filter it by what type of mod, and that can be gameplay.
That can be gameplay.
Or you can just look up subclasses.
I could look up subclasses or archetypes.
Oh, yeah.
I think they're considered archetypes.
Either or, both.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, I might try that, but I wanted to make my confession here that I did put a mod into the game, and yes, it means that all the party members are out, but I think that it makes just narrative sense that all the characters in a very narrative-heavy, character-focused game are in combat at the same time, or are out in the field, and that they would make all of their checks. You know, that was the other thing, too, is like, you know, if they're sitting at camp, wouldn't they also still make survival checks and nature checks and stuff? But no, only if they're in
at camp,
the field.
sure, not if they're not on the field, though.
Right, but technically you could set down camp practically anywhere, so they're always with you.
I guess.
Anyway, I'm wondering if anyone had to put some mods into Baldur's Gate 3. If there were any mods that you would recommend, let me know in the comments down below. Who knows, maybe I'll try another one. I'm trying to limit mods on a lot of these games to just like one, for things that I might find to be a hassle. I don't like to mod games, I like to play them the way that they are meant to be played until I find something where I'm like, okay, now I just am annoyed. I want to fix this problem.
You gotta heavily mod games so that you can experience games in different ways. That's why I have 170 Skyrim mods.
Sure. Hey, that works.
The base game is fine, but only the first couple times you play it.
Well, that's it. I want to start by playing it.
Sure.
Subsequent playthroughs, that's another thing. But
sure. I've currently modded No Man's Sky. Like Planet Generation, I have one for Planet Generation. It makes them less bland.
No Man's Sky definitely could use that. Let us know in the comments down below, what kind of mods do you like? Have you used any for Baldur's Gate 3? I have been meaning to do this segment for months now. And
years even.
We have finally gotten here. I saw a very interesting post, because they're not called tweets anymore, apparently, but it's on what was once Twitter. My banal TTRPG advice is all your NPCs should be at least twice as gullible as the players. Make them fall for the "what's that over there" move. It's more interesting to let the players get all the way inside the murder fortress than to waste 5 hours circling the walls. I wanted to get your opinion on that. What do you think about it?
Sure. I think it definitely warrants at least trying it. Right. Let them in, because there's more fun to be had once you're inside it than when you're trying to get inside it.
Right. Exactly. I think that it just ends up taking up a lot of time.
That too. It's like if you're, again, spending 5 hours circling the fortress, it's like, or you could just find a way to get in, hiding in a cart. Guards are like, yeah, nothing suspicious here. Right. Go in. These are not the droids you're looking for. Move along.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying, yeah. So, basically what he's suggesting is that the NPCs that your players are going to encounter can be a little bit dim, in terms of, the basic thought processes of how your characters will end up getting into a fort or a dungeon or anything like that. Yeah. Make sure that your guards at the gate are not all that perceptive. They can't roll passive perception.
Again,
fast.
Using another Star Wars reference, you're a little short for a stormtrooper, aren't you?
Yeah.
But they cuffed Chewbacca, dressed in stormtrooper outfits, and we're like, yeah, nothing unusual here. Yeah, this is fine. Yeah. The guards let him in. The guards were gullible. In this case, the players, in this case Han and Luke, were like, yeah, I bet we could get in by doing this. And the guards are like, yeah, you can get in doing this. And I think that shows a lot more interesting ways to go about it. Because if you let the guards or the NPCs be more gullible, your players can try more interesting things.
Yeah. Now, once they actually get in there, all of a sudden people can be perceptive. I think
Sure.
they all of a sudden they go, hey, wait a second. I can see a delayed reaction where,
Yeah.
like, the guards at the gate, like, think about this about an hour later after your characters are well into, like, stealing the magic device or whatever they got inside the castle, where they go, hey, wait a second. Those guys weren't guards. That cart looked weird.
Yeah.
I saw a rope out the
Wait.
back.
Yeah. So I think it's definitely a way you can make it so there are more interesting and fun scenarios for the players to get into, and possibly more ramifications, which again just invites more interesting and fun gameplay, I think.
Sure. I am wondering how we communicate that to the player, because I think naturally players would think when they come up to a fortress or something, everybody's going to be able to tell like right away. Everybody's going to know who we are, and they're going to get stopped immediately.
No, your players, unless they are world famous, should not have anyone know who they are when they're going somewhere new.
Okay. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That reminds me of a game of Deathwatch, which I've mentioned before to people in general. Sorry. This is a slight tangent, but it's a game of Deathwatch. Warhammer 40k Deathwatch that Fantasy Flight Games made. It's where you play Space Marines of the Deathwatch. You are Xenos fighters, specialists, and your thing is you're gonna go kill a ton of aliens, but you're all Space Marines from different chapters.
Sure.
Somebody in their group of friends played a game of Deathwatch, except they played a group of orcs who thought they were Space Marines.
Oh.
And went masquerading as Space Marines.
Okay. Yeah.
Orcs are not anywhere close to looking like Space Marines, but the Imperium at large is rather stupid.
Yeah.
Like, the layman does not know a difference between an alien and a mythical Space Marine for a lot of cases, especially if they're in armor. So what they did for the entire game is the DM, or GM, would do perception checks for everyone that they would come into contact with from the Imperium.
Right.
But everyone from the Imperium's stupid, and barely any of them have ever seen what a Space Marine looks like, so they just believed him.
Yeah.
There were like 2 instances through the entire campaign where anyone succeeded the role to realize they were orcs.
Yeah. Okay.
And one of them didn't care, and the other one got shot for disrespecting them.
Perfect.
So, letting your NPCs be gullible, and in this case, the GM actually said, I actually didn't even make them that gullible. These guys just have really good deception checks. But in that case, the entire campaign was silly and fun because they got to play characters they shouldn't have been playing in ways they shouldn't have been playing them. But it made for an epic story, so...
Sure. I think now that you mentioned that, when it comes to like perception or deception checks, if you're looking for a way that you could implement this, what about if we said that there was a certain level when we get, just the initial levels into a dungeon, into a castle, wherever you're going, where where your opponents, those NPCs, just maybe like have disadvantage on checks like that. Disadvantage on a deception check, and then as you get further in, when you get to the back end, characters have advantage. They go from getting disadvantage, then they don't have any kind of advantage, and then they have an advantage on those deception or perception checks.
If you're going to like a fortress, maybe you're getting to where they're more elite guards instead of just the rookies.
Right. And this makes sense to me because you would think that the further in you go, the better protection that you actually have. And that would at least keep it organic so that you're not just saying, like, no, they're not going to be found out until this point here. You're just making it less likely at the beginning that they're going to get found out, and much more likely when they get in that they're going to be found out, and that everybody's going to get alerted when they're around the people that are probably also the biggest threat. Even then, the one thing I'm thinking about is that the characters might not have been communicated that they might actually be able to deceive the guards at the gate, that they might actually be able to, get in through a secret passage, and trying to communicate some of that would be beneficial, just to get them in there somehow.
I think one way you could do that with guards too is maybe you have someone that's trying to pickpocket someone.
Okay.
Like one of your party members. If you have a rogue or someone trying to do that, for instance, maybe they pickpocket someone, and the guard comes over. It's like, hey, what are you doing with your hand in that guy's pocket? And you had to think fast, and you're like, oh yeah, no, I was just helping him adjust his pants or something.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you deceived both the people. It's like, oh, thanks.
Yeah. Perfect.
And then you're like, maybe these guys are really stupid.
Maybe these guys aren't as bright as we once thought they were. If the party is really hesitant, I could see doing a thing where, like, you have another character that's just not in the party, and it's like some kid, like a street urchin, and they come up and they like toss a rock at one of the guards, and then the guards immediately like run after them, like, hey, I gotta get that kid who threw a rock at me. Damn urchins, gotta do something about that. That they're easily distracted. That kind of shows that they're easy to distract. Gives the players some idea about, like, maybe not deceiving the guards, but maybe distracting the guards so that it's easy to get by them. Something to that effect. I am perfectly fine with the idea of gullible NPCs. I would like to see more of it, just to get to the actual heart of the cards, we'll say. Once you get into the main part of that, as he says, the murder dungeon, the murder fortress, that's where the fun stuff happens, and you don't want that to take 5 hours to get to. You want them to be able to get in there, but also at the same time, I don't really want to just narrate my way entirely through that and just say, yeah, you sneak in there and you get past the guards real quick, and then, okay, now we're in the middle. No, let them do stuff to get there.
Yeah.
But make it easy.
Leave it in the hands of the players, but let them do something a little unorthodox or goofy even. Yeah,
suspend disbelief for a moment and let them achieve things that normally they wouldn't.
Don't even need to suspend disbelief. Be like, here's a yellow work vest. Welcome, go right inside.
You happen to find a crate full of yellow work vests. What do? You
put one on, you just act like you're supposed to be there.
I think,
honestly,
yeah,
it works in real life.
It does.
So it should work in a game.
It does. I remember reading something about, or watching something about that, where, like, if you, like, most of the time, if you put on, like, scrubs in a hospital, most people won't really think anything of it. They'll just assume that you work. If you put on a vest at, like, a department store, and it just looks like a vest that the party member, most people will think you work there. They don't really
if
think
I were
about
to take the vest I wear at work, which I only wear it because I work overnight, so I only wear it because it's got nice deep pockets in it I can put my things in. But if I were to wear that to any other store, they wouldn't question it. They wouldn't think twice.
Yeah, exactly. Most people do not think about it all that much. It's just that quick visual representation is usually all people need to kind of reference something. So you could use that. Sure, why not? So, hey, there's a few things that you could do just to make it a lot faster to get to the real meat and potatoes of your adventure when you get your characters into a dungeon and then try to kill them off. Fun times for the NPCs and your player characters, I'm sure. Have you tried something to this effect? Let us know in the comments down below. We are all done for this episode, and we get to come back next week with even more fun and adventures. I'm sure Sure, there's one game in particular we're going to have stuff to talk about following this weekend, so...
We'll see.
We'll see. We'll see how we feel about it. In case anyone wants to catch up with all of the fun times that we have here on the show, where could they go on the internet?
You can find all of the fun times we have over here over at TotalPebbleKnockdown.com.
And when you are there, feel free to click on the Patreon banner and check out some of our early release footage and our extra bits that don't make it into the show. Make sure to check us out on every podcast app known to mankind. Please rate and review and subscribe where applicable. And you can also find us on the increasing wasteland that is social media. I am at Titanium.
I'm at EXP Limited. Our show is at Pebble Knockdown.
So check us out there for all of your pebbly needs. And with that, 106 is in the bag, and we will come back with 107 next week. And until then, you have a wonderful pebbly day.
Pebbles away!
We're still working on catchphrases. We
don't need a catchphrase. 100 episodes in, we're not doing it.
We're not doing catchphrases. That's our catchphrase.
Nobody listens to this far into the show.
No one expects a Total Pebble Knockdown outro anymore.
Exactly.
Cool. Well, in that case, peace! Out.
Perfect.
Great.